I'm Eugene Denis. I consider myself a man of vision to change the world for the better. And I was head of the airport in Boryspil 5 years ago. I was also invited to head the MAU airwaves. But here I am in a new quality. I'm not a speaker, I'm a moderator here. And we're discussing an interesting topic, Industry 4.0, its place in the world processes, its place in Ukraine, and together with me, the main stakeholders in this panel, we have people who've been dealing with innovation for a long time. Denis Morozov from INTERPIPE, Ukraine. I think the video you will see later is something we can be proud of. Then the next panelist is Oleg Shcherbatenko, which is IT Enterprises. Company that not only talks about Industry 4.0 but implements it in their products. A company that knows a lot about products and it sells them not only in Ukraine but abroad. We also expect Eugene Kravtsov in the nearest time, and you know pretty well who he is from Ukrainian railways. And it's a state within a state. How developed the railways will be, that will determine the industrial development of our country as a whole. So without further ado, Denis, please present your company that we know all, but still, the innovative project that you want to share with us.
Добрый день, коллеги. Ну, как говорится.
So, hello. It's better for you to see what we've implemented, and then we will show you a short video, and then after that we will talk. INTERPIPE Ukraine, Industry 4.0. Ukrainian industrial company INTERPIPE is within top 10 world pipe producers, top 3 exporters of railway elements, smart planning, the one IT system of business management, customer-oriented approach, 1000% traceability of products thanks to a database, traceability from the bulk, from the early product to the later stage, using high-end technologies in our workshops. The possibility of error is drowned down to the minimal, quick processing of requests, critical shipments up to 100%, digital tools for the effective use of production capabilities. Based on line data, we minimize the downtimes and we optimize the primary diagnostics. Working with the IT system anywhere in the production line, using digital instruments for workers, and the turnover of spare parts is optimized. There's downtimes radically decreased. Management system of stocks fully automated. Split of the products for different stocks. The fastest mechanism for searching and finding necessary parts for shipment. and the waiting times for cargoes have been decreased down to 3%. Automatic notifications of a customer when shipment is off. So I don't know if you've seen the comments at the bottom. Just those are very important. They illustrated every frame of this video, but I think Denis will tell us and describe. So yeah, visually you've seen that we've implemented IT wherever we could. Let me give you a story why IT tools for us were so important in Industry 4.0 were the survival points. It's not a secret, for many years we worked with markets of customs union where the key element is big volumes, standardized products, mass-produced, and there is no stimuli to process the orders better, to plan better. So then, thanks to political reasons, we lost those markets. We realized that we have to turn 180 and reorient ourselves for the Western markets. And we faced with the fact that even metallurgy, the orders are very small. 2 or 3 point small volumes. We had smaller orders, more complex orders. Every order is individualized, there's marketing, there's marking. So we realized that we cannot use old tools to process all that huge array of information, to live in a new paradigm with this information. That's why implementing IT solution was unavoidable. It's the tool that allowed us to live in the new reality. So we have a lot of information, big data that we have to process, analyze, production planning and everything else. Second important element for metallurgy is traceability. We need clear traceability from raw material down to the final product. It's very important to analyze what problems emerge. When I find in a pipe a small problem, a defect, I have to trace it back to the very cause of this problem, and then I will be able to realize what's the reason for what's the cause for this problem. So we've done that thanks to IT solutions to have traceability from raw material, from steel down to the end final product, the wheels or pipes and everything. Third important element is managing the main stock. We are now using predictive maintenance, not planned maintenance. So we use a lot of data from different parameters. We now predict the behavior of the equipment in the nearest future. Our system allows us to predict when a certain piece of equipment may malfunction, knowing that weak point, knowing what element will have to be worn. We can prepare for that by spare parts. We don't need to have all combinations of spare parts. We can predict what specific parts we'll need. So this neural network with a lot of meters and data readers, that brought us huge effect. Driving down times, driving stock time. And the fourth element is sales management. A lot of orders, a lot of customers, a big network of sales, and we've managed this element. It allows us to effectively manage our stocks and our inventory, and our customers are happy. That's the most important. So thanks Industry 4.0 and IT Enterprise for making those solutions for us. They are our partners, and I think the lion's share is IT Enterprise. Thanks a lot. Denis, thank you. We, of course, are now talking about the main panelists. 5 minutes for each panelist to present themselves. This is an old school clock. Oleg, the floor is yours. I present the company IT Enterprise. We don't have any video, but what should I say to describe our company? It's a company that has a lot of history, and we've been on the market for 32 years. But what we're doing right now is, I think, the most modern thing of all. We do digital transformation companies for Industry 4.0. I'm not going to dwell what Industry 4.0, how can we measure 4.0 or not 4.0, but let me tell you the following. When we talk about our company and Industry 4.0, there have to be two things. And Jack Ma, when he talked earlier today, he says the most important asset is your people. And over the time of us existing in the market, more than 30 years, as I said, our most important part of our company is the people. People who have first-hand knowledge how different areas, different industries work. Chemical industry, machinery, public agencies, we work everywhere, with any area, with any industry. And how to make those companies and those enterprises, public companies, more effective, more competitive in the modern, dynamic world. So we've been doing that for a long time now, and we continue doing that. And the second part that we have is the system. We've spent years building it as a system IT enterprise. It's a system that allows companies of different profile to work effectively. So if you're interested in its capabilities, you can search and Google. Who are our customers? Roshan, INTERPIPE, Forexpo, Kowalski, Boryspil Airport. Yeah. And if we take airport, Boryspil, there's Credo Company, the gas stations, and you can go anywhere. At Dnipro, with Yuzhmash, we work with them, with design think tank, Yuzhna. So a lot of companies go through this transformation. That's an experience that is extremely valuable. It allows the company to be more effective, and our consultants, they also work more efficiently because they know how to change the company in a quicker and effective way. Thanks a lot. Great job. Live questions are more interesting than me just saying stuff about our company. Okay, Denis, from your presentation, from your video, we have seen that your company pays a lot of attention to AI in process management. So that's the topic as we perceive it, the Industry 4.0, where AI comes to the rescue to manage processes. Does it also say that you don't have to hurry back to your office because AI will do the job? We go to the bar and the machines work. No, honestly, the video is very nice, but let's not say that everything is ideal. With all these artificial intelligences, participation of a human being is important. Artificial intelligence helps people to decide, but the final decision, the final approval is on the human. We are close to relinquishing those controls to IT, but still there's not enough trust. What I'm confident in is that when we decide something, when a key person decides or makes a decision, they have all the necessary information to make the right decision. Earlier I was doubtful about that. I had a feeling that many decisions are intuitive, uninformed. Now the IT system allows everybody in the decision-making chain to be informed. But so far, with all respect, AI is a supporting tool, not the chief element. There's no Skynet yet. So what's the role of a human being in managing enterprise? Where do we keep our job? Like planning. Even with all the parameters now being automated and being embedded in the system, and the system can optimize everything, how to place orders and everything, but there are some nuances still that human being is better at. So importance, priority of the orders. Or humans talk to customers. They know what the customers want, what they need, and these elements in the system are possible. Also in repairs, diagnostics is not 100% predictive. It's learning. We're teaching that network, and that element, that's the element that humans does. Is they transfer the knowledge. So at the moment, the network is not at the stage to be able to 100% independent. Still, human steers it. So as far as I understand, the customer's experience, humans will not be replaced. So intuitive, emotional, there must be a human element. It's important. Yeah, that's important. What else? Second, though, is intuition. It's a scary word for some people, but it's an experience that you cannot formulate, you cannot put into logic. But it's still data. Using big data, but you need time, right? Yeah, you need time to teach system that. Still not ready for that. Still humans decide, but sooner or later, I think there will be 5 or 6 years. All combinations, components will pass through it, and the system will be ready to work even better than a human being. And in designing, right, nobody will replace people. Yeah, because you have to put a task to a machine. Somebody will have the task for it, and the IT system is designed by a human being. Creating IT tools is the human function. Okay, Oleg. I wanted to ask you a personal question because out of the recent conversations with you, I realized that you have you're lucky to work together with your son in the same industry, and that he is your like-minded individual. But what about the vision, the perspective of Industry 4.0, your vision as a post-Soviet transformed entrepreneur and your younger generation? Do they overlap? Do they match? Do your visions? Philosophically speaking, it doesn't have to match. If we're progressing in time, then each new generation has to differ, have to have the foundation of the previous one, but also have to be different. So we were debating, as the Generation Z, millennials, every generation starts with something new. So I wouldn't want to 100% match the youth. And Jack Ma has told about that. The youth have to bring a new push to everything. Will you argue with that? Would you argue? Yeah, we argue, of course. And it's great because doubts and looking for better solutions is the source of development. Those who are super confident, they limit themselves in the possibilities. But where you're different with your son? Well, so Alexei, that's my son. We should ask him. If he were not present here, maybe I would be more honest, but so the panel is not about that. My point is, times are changing very quickly. Industry 4.0 is something that came at its own time because the technology has changed, because the progress is so fast, and it has to change us all. So in this direction, the generations, the idea of generations is not the most important. The most important, how do we see the future? What do we want from the future? The conflict of generations, yeah, there is a little bit of a conflict. There is different understanding how should people communicate, what are the lines of communication, what is the more modern solution. Everybody may think from their own experience It's more of a philosophical topic, but there's still one goal. Or you put it differently, when you build a company, most importantly is the values that the company holds. When I heard Jack Ma, what is the company built on? On shared values and on people. That's the most important. And we don't argue about that. The values that the company brings to the customer is the most important. And that's the single vector. We argue what kind of values, but when we came up with the shared values, that's the way to work. So you were lucky, right? You have the fresh outlook of your son. Yeah, we are lucky fellow. But the company is not that old as me. We have people who have been for 30 years in the company, but the average age is about 27 years. So we have people who have worked for 20 years and more, and 30 years, and the younger generation. We work with our partners for 35 years already. It's difficult, it's complex. There are many people younger than that in this audience, but it's important to know how quickly the company moves forward. And the decisive role here is the youth. So we have to always aim to pass the torch to the youth. The new knowledge should be emerging in the company. So since we're talking about the youth, Denis. There's an opinion that Industry 4.0 has not only positive promise, but it also has certain risks for society. Can you tell us what are the risks? Yeah, in everything new there's dark and there's light. Industry 4.0 creates a lot of convenience. Internet of Things, that means all devices, all gadgets will exchange information. Big data means that all the information that these devices collect, they send it somewhere to some massive pool of information. So that's where we have convenience and danger. So personnel limit is blurred. No private life remain for human being. Everything we do, everything we are, it's tracked, analyzed, and be stored into some big database. And there can be people who would like to use or abuse this, which is bad. So on one hand it's good, on the other hand it's loss of privacy. Okay, loss of privacy. So Oleg, you said that the most valuable in your company is people. So the further this industry develops, the more important it is for the people to have them in the company. So that the funnel that they are filtered through is going to be thinner. So where is that a risk? Are there more risks? What will the world look like that will be filtered away? The motto we use in the Industry 4.0, it says that all decisions should be made without participation of humans. When we decide something, we look how to eliminate human error from this. Because humans are very weak link. They can't work 24/7. They have to be paid money. People get sick. People are emotional. And so you understand that in the future, people will only do things that they are good for, that they're effective. All the routine stuff will be made by AI. So when we talk about people, requirements. What do you demand from your people? More requirements, more demanding, or because you eliminate small routine operations not only from the customers but from yourself. The funnel will be different. As I heard Jack Ma, he said that a machine thinks with the chips that they have. A human being thinks with the heart. They think with emotions, and that makes us different from machines. from robots. And in this case, of course, we were talking about creativity on the first panel, how people are ready to create something new. It's about values. The machine doesn't understand what's a value, what's not a value. We define that. So those requirements will be the main requirements when hiring. That's going to be the new funnel in the Industry 4.0. We want the future life to be happy life for everybody, right? What kind of happiness those people will have who, due to some reasons, will not be part of the selection of this system production companies with the AI. Well, if we look at the history of industrial revolutions, we say that the first industrial revolution that happened was machines, manufacturing machines. The Luddites breaking their weaving machines, saying that you are stealing our jobs, our families have no sustenance, and it's a big problem. Of course, every industrial revolution, now we're talking about the fourth, it's like a big tsunami wave that crushes everything, that changes the landscape. On one hand, it's a big threat for the people. On the other hand, it's a big opportunity for the people, because we don't have problems with people, with hiring. Who is enough staffed? Who is not understaffed? Raise your hand. I'm looking for people. We're hiring. We have 20% vacancies. So if we, as a high-tech company, we are understaffed, we're 20% understaffed, and we're looking for them, what does it say? That there's always a demand for new professions. You just have to be ready. And it's not a catastrophic problem. The tsunami will pass, but we will have to deal with the consequences, with new requirements, and that's the most important. There's a threat, but the threat is also a big opportunity. Let me also add, I agree that there were many different industrial revolutions. The Luddites, saboteurs, sabotage. What's it? It's the wooden thing used to block the weaving machine. So some professions disappear, new professions emerge. So like now, we have opened in our city Mechatronics room. Mechatronics is a new profession, those who repair robots. It's like a family doctor for robots. We never had this profession, it's now emerging. And there will be many new emerging professions. The robots have to be serviced, all those systems have to be maintained, supported. We need people for that. Of course, some low-tech professions will disappear, but that's good. That means people are free to explore other professions. They will explore, learn. It's great. It's a big future in that. Yeah, it's a topic that everybody raises. What will happen to people who lose jobs? I was this year in Sweden. We talked about that regarding Industry 4.0 and what kind of professions will survive. They say we have a big problem now. When this automation drops people out of the market, what professions are in demand? Tango dancing. More free time, people want to have quality time. Like Jeremiah said, they earlier they worked 12 hours per day, now then they work 8 hours per day, 3 hours per day, and still busy. Still everybody's busy, have no free time. That's why professions emerge that the market demands. Tango dancing. But it doesn't happen by itself. Okay, let's say it's not a threat, it's a task for the future. By given a way to progress, we need to understand that we have to accept how do we care about those who fall out of their profession. The AI will replace a lot of people, but you need to take it as a task. What do you have to do with all the time and free hands? You're one of the very few companies industrial landscape of Ukraine, which in a closed cycle you build this oasis of technological progress. So how does it feel to live on an industrial progressive island, but you are in a very underdeveloped country? Don't you feel as a rich resident in a poor village? Well, I don't know. We're citizens of this country. We're patriots. We love Ukraine, and we want Ukraine to be great in the future. We will build that future together. Regarding how we feel, we're competing not in Ukraine. We only sell 25% of our goods in Ukraine. 75% is outside Ukraine. So who do we compete with? With the leaders, the leading companies that walk hand in hand. They also implement IT solutions. They implement Industry 4.0. They do the same. And basically, we don't have any opportunities to lag behind. We have to catch up. It's a very dynamic world. But you go outside of your company and you get into an infrastructure where development ended in the 60s somewhere, where downtimes, blackouts. You build an oasis of industry in a country that didn't even build Industry 3.0. Well, of course we're outraged. In our city there's no airport. And we cannot even attract potential investors. They can fly to us. Like, that's a challenge, of course. Roads and everything. Yeah, today it's a problem, but let's be reasonable. It's another different question. It's not a virtual reality where we're here and the reality is there. So like you compete with companies who are in different kind of conditions in terms of infrastructure. What is your assessment of these hindrances? The hindrance that you're in Ukraine, not in Poland, let's say. Look, of course, the first is investors. Investors fly, they don't drive. Investors need to fly. The fact that we don't have airports and good roads in our city, that's what prevents us from getting a great AR conference where we bring investors from all over the world to see what we do. That's a problem, that's a challenge. And that impacts the potential presence of investors. Thankfully you have Borispol. Oh, Borispol. And when we do AR conference, we hold it either in KIEF or abroad, but that's not the right thing to do. Investors should see the assets that they invest in. They want to see the working plant, not some picture. So it's important. Of course it is important. That's one of the elements how you present yourself. When they cannot see you, that's bad. Like we learned in social economics that you cannot build socialism only in one country. It probably is fair for all the constructs that are not allowed to be built other than in complex of issues. Okay, I wanted to ask a question to Oleg. You're a company that creates artificial intelligence. In the future, AI will build other AIs. Will you not be eaten as a company? Will you not build your own killer? We still have time, at least for me. Maybe in the future, yeah, maybe that will come about. We will try and predict what will happen. But let me tell you this. Some 5-6 years ago, we were still thinking that everybody, when we said to people, workshops and the workers in the workshop will use smartphones to work. Nobody believed. Now look at INTERPIPE. Most people using mobile mobile devices, smart goggles. Imagine like 3 to 5 years ago, it would seem unreal. So it's developing so quickly, we cannot predict what will be in 5 years, but the world will change, of course. In fact, now regarding the AI, let's put it that way, about Jack Ma, how he said, I'm not an expert. Jack Ma says that AI is still something that we don't know. What is AI? Who knows? Do you know? Maybe your son knows. See, he said there will be no more than 5% of people who know what AI. So everybody says AI, but don't many people understand what it is globally. So it will take time. But of course, we have solutions based on AI, where AI teaches neural network with knowledge that the system feeds. And that's what the system does even now. So AI already builds AI, and that's the only way to go. There's so much information, people will not deal with that massive array of data. And we're doing that. We use Google. Google already knows what you want. You were looking for that product, the system tries to give you a relative product. That's AI. You're using AI all the time. Even if you're scared or not, it's created by people. People created those algorithms. It's going to get more and bigger, and will help it. You will be helped by AI more and more to decide. So your idea that the AI has broken through into the industry, what kind of professions that will die out? Have you thought about that? Of course. Those are professions that the low qualified professions, the low-end professions that don't need heavy training, like cutters, molders, everything that the machines can do effectively. But there will be new professions emerging, like Mechatronics, working with robots, new coders who will be writing code and support AI, and a lot of other things. So new professions will emerge. I don't think that people will not be in demand. They will be in demand. All right, so Evhen Kravtsov had joined us. There's no railway to connect to this center, and you were stuck in the traffic jam. So let's talk. There's a question for you. Will you tell us about your company or not? Oh, I think there are many companies who don't. There are not many people who don't know railway and what railway is. Well, although we're talking about Industry 4.0, there's still legacy, Industry 0.1. So that's the watch I'm using, stopwatch. Talk about your company in context of today's topic. Yeah. Well, I think you all know our company, what railway is, how to drive railway, what is the industry, and especially interesting to present it while talking on a panel about innovation, about industry of new generation, 4.0. The railway for sure is not synonymous of modern industry in general, although unlike metallurgy, mining industry, railway is a relatively young type of economy, only 150 years old. But still it's a very traditionalist business, very traditionalist type of transport. And transport that doesn't have a lot of global innovations in the recent 50 years. Railways, the last innovation was electrification. It was the beginning of the 30s, 40s. So after that, another breakthrough that some countries already have is unmanned trains. For us, it's still very exotic and it's not as global breakthrough as in the other areas. But still, if we talk about railway as an industry, it is currently, just like many other modes of transportation, is one of the most effective potential donors of new technologies, especially in digital age and Internet of Things and global meters, readers, and smart meters and use of big data. And now, having said that, let's talk about the railway. We don't have unmanned trains yet. Plus, I can even tell you that when the railway was born, traditionally there were 3 operators operating a train. We managed to break through. Right now, only 2 are required to service our train. Although everywhere in the world, there's only 1. And as we said, there are already unmanned trains. Fortunately, we are only now beginning to use big data. If we talk about big data, then a passenger segment of the market, we are some of the biggest providers of big data. Other than banking and IT, we are the biggest, the 3rd biggest maybe. Unfortunately, we don't have as many innovations in technical means of control, quality assurance, and this kind of solution. But all these things now can be implemented easily. We have some experience, I'm going to tell you later, when we will start discussing specific questions. And we can announce that we're planning to switch to a new platform in passenger transportation. A platform that will be able to use big potential, big amount of information and data that the company has in general. We call it UZ360. It's a new IT platform that will create a new experience for passengers. It's a great example that describes how we plan to develop this business and passenger transportation on the railway. Railways and basically any mode of transportation nowadays, in order to survive, in order to generate profits, in order to be competitive, has to switch to other formats, other platforms. Have to expand. They have to offer new services using the data and the information that we have available and generate new products with it. We see that the majority of Ukrainian citizens regularly use a railway for different purposes. Family trips, business trips. And in this process, railway tickets, traveling by train is a key element, is an anchor for something else. Business trips and the tickets you buy determines a lot of other things. Lodging, old hotels, restaurants, planning, arrival, and so on and so forth. So we see that as a certain platform to start offering much more services to passengers through cross-selling, through partners, through other things. Why am I talking about this and bringing you this example? Railway is very traditionalist. For us currently, it's important to break this paradigm, to give new push, a new vision, not only in perception of the company, but in the markets where we work. Unfortunately, if you talk about passengers, unlike aviation, it's always a lot of losses. Without the state subsidies, without increased price of a ticket, it's hard to increase profitability. That made us look for cross-selling. additional revenues. And these were new industries, new opportunities, analysis of big data that we have about passengers, ability to offer targeted services. Currently, us as a company, that allows us to say that this segment, which is unprofitable, but it can generate a lot of additional revenue. Just like aviation, you decide that you're going to start selling additional services. Yeah, selling alcohol beverages. So will improve our customer experience, right? Yeah, we will not be putting your bags on the scales, no. So if you will not get subsidies just like air aviation, maybe you will be much more advanced. Thanks for the presentation of your vision. I want to ask you another personal question, because our speakers answered them already. You have kids, I know. You know that your kids are going to live in a different world. So what are you doing for that today to change the world for the better? Your kids will be living in the world of Industry 4.0. Are you preparing them for that? And what and how? For that time in the future? What kind of qualities are you trying to bring in them? What? It's just like, you know, a railway is a little slower, so I had time to think. So yeah, I have two kids. They're still small. They will be living in Industry 4.0. But I would say when I talk to the older kid, the younger one that doesn't talk yet, and when we talk about access of children to new technologies, there are different approaches. Many adults think that screen time has to be limited, strictly limited. Others say that you have to limit radically until 21 years or 18 years old, when the person can use more critical thinking, and only then start using devices. I have a different opinion. I think that all the achievements of mankind should be available to a kid. Of course, with supervision of adults, but we have to dip them into that. Because tomorrow, the telephone that everyone has, the computer that everybody has, not many people have computers, by the way, only pads and iPads and smartphones. So all of that is extension of your personality, of your intellect, of your brain, if you want. And earlier, the kid will be able to use that, the better it is. The earlier you get a kid, with the help of adults, of course, but they exist in this world, the more competitive that kid will be later in the society. After a while, in 20, 25 years, when they're adults. In what profession you see their kids? Of course, railway. Okay, Oleg. No, seriously. And honestly, I think that transport, where we all work, it will remain. Industry 4.0 will have transport. It will change, but rails will remain iron with magnets. Transport will be there. It will not go. And just like other professions, journalists, writers, lawyers, transport will stay. It will be more modernized. There will be much less people engaged in it. But so what do you think? What kind of professions do you prepare your children for? What kind of skill set, what kind of professions will remain, will survive, so that all of us know? Well, I'm seeing where I should move when I see my granddaughter. My grandson is not yet speaking, but I'm working on that. But when I saw my granddaughter She was 2 years old, and she used smartphone. And she came to my office one day, and she saw this one-button telephone, and she asked what it is. I realized that something has changed in this generation. And of course, we're changing every day. I support Eugene when he says the earlier you have current generation, the earlier they learn, the better. When the founder of Sony said after 3 it's too late, and I think that the bulk of knowledge kids will take up to 3 years. They will have to learn as much as possible about AR, about new technologies. So kids in 3 years, they have to understand that. What will they do in the Industry 5.0? Because between revolutions there are 50 years, 100 years. Now there's less than 50 years. So Revolution 5 will be soon. What kind of profession do you bet? Your kids already growing up. Well, let them decide. Astronauts, firemen, we've been there, done that. So I don't know what kind of profession there will be. I don't think it's going to be an IT profession where my granddaughter will go. I'm from IT, but I'm confident that so many operations in the IT will have to leave. I've learned a lot as a programmer. And I'm thinking, can this program be coded automatically? And a lot of code is generated automatically now. So the 150,000 people that work in Ukraine, there have to be 650,000 people. Why can't we make it more effective? Denis, can you give us the profession of the future? Your colleagues don't want to say. So what's the future profession? My daughters are old enough and she says, I want to be an economist like my father. Do the economists understand what's economy? The younger one is 2 years old. Yeah, she's very savvy with gadgets. Although she's 2 years old, she knows how to call, how to use these gadgets. It's natural. For me, for my generation, it was something out of the dream. For her, it's part of life. What do you prepare them for? I don't know. My goal is that maybe in the future there will be no more specialization. There will be no such thing as job. People will do what they want, what they find interesting. Maybe that's how it will change. And it's going to be it's going to be atavism. Professions will go. People just will do stuff, what they want. And what nobody wants to do, robots will do. Maybe that's how it's going to be. You don't have to be afraid of technologies. They're inevitable. So I think kids should learn technologies that as a natural element of their environment. Okay, interesting outlook. World without professions. Exciting. My question. We understand that Ukraine has to find its place in Industry 4.0. We understand that it will not come by itself. And we understand that each of us, wherever we are, doing everything we can to give the best results, to achieve best results, to have not just the islands of Industry 4.0, but the whole country. What's the role of the state in this process? What do you think? And I would like us to leave this panel with 3 tasks for the state. What's the task for the state so that the Industry 4.0 in Ukraine is getting momentum? It will get momentum. Good question. Provocative a little bit. So if we talk about Industry 4.0 and the state, we've heard it during the opening, keynote speech. In the modern world, there's more and more stress on the individual human being, human potential, creativity, innovation thinking. We are transitioning from competition between systems towards competition between single people or people. So in this kind of conditions, although I am representing the public sector, but still the best condition to make the people most effective in this kind of environment is the extreme libertarianism, where the state strictly limits its impact, influence, and control of society. It only creates conditions for effective work and existence of individuals, and it supports the main values, the main living or mechanisms. Whereas at the same time, doing away with all the limits, just a minimal regulation. Do we need state support? That's the favorite topic, that the state has to invest, has to subsidize. So targeted subsidies for this industry, that industry, railway, horticulture, everything, aviation. I think the state has to limit its influence in infrastructure, where individuals cannot create a maximum added value. Future, if we talk about rapid development of economy, not in large corporations, but in SMEs, for countries like Ukraine. I'm not talking about China or other super industrial states. So we have to create conditions and infrastructure, energy and other things where people cannot be competitors, cannot create a lot of added value, and limit the participation of the state in these spheres. But the spheres which are growth-based, IT, new technologies, scientific production, they have to be liberal, completely liberal. No regulation there. It's a complex issue. Do we need state loan programs? Do we need preferential treatment? I think that's secondary. And access to resources, non-financial resources. So the state only deals with transport, railway, yes. Oleg, what's the role of the state for industrial progress and development, rapid development? I have a different idea. I'm looking at the experience of all the countries in the world, and everywhere the state has a say. We've just heard today from the organizer of this forum, and that video shows that it's not anymore about libertarianism in the state. It's about it's battling between states, trade wars and everything. When we talk about trade wars, that means the state is in competition with another state. So in this case, when we talk about Industry 4.0, I see from the materials around that all the countries invest huge resources into developing one specific state, staying ahead of other states. I read a lot of materials that say how America tries to fight China, how they invest in making their own state more effective. And three things that decide everything: the state, science and education, and businesses. If we say that only businesses deal with Industry 4.0, that's only in Ukraine. In everywhere in the countries of the world, there are programs, state programs for Industry 4.0 to build new talents, to grow new talents, to create new conditions, favorable conditions, great education, good science. If we don't support science and education, there will be no talents. I saw this year how Swedish economy works, and they show what products Sweden created that are consumed all over the world. They say, we're a small country, we're only 10 million, when we should be world-oriented, we should create new products. And I've heard that at different levels of the state. Accelerators, incubators, and education, startups and education. We should do that. Businesses will not do that themselves. And the Swedish program is that drop non-renewable sources of energy. Business will help a lot in that effort. So Industry 4.0, Ukraine is at the moment the only country which doesn't have any future vision about Industry 4.0. All European countries have that program. There's monitoring of what they're doing. It's public available. We have our neighbors who have that. Kazakhstan, they have a program 4.0. Even Russia has 4.0. Belarus has 4.0. We don't have that program. And we suffer from that. People go and work for other countries who have this program. Our IT company, our customers are from abroad. We sell our services to other countries, and that's where Ukraine loses. We don't have, our state doesn't create this market. We have to build our own workforce. We have a forum on Industry 4.0 because the state doesn't do it. So your task to create a program, an ecosystem. For the state to create an ecosystem for 4.0. Without this ecosystem, nothing will work. Ecosystem is a state, three branches of governments, it's science and education and business. Businesses will not create it themselves. They will work on the markets, but they will not change the game. It's a policy issue. Thank you. Denis? I will just add that I think the policymakers have to be contractors of the decision. Let's talk about Estonia. Estonia is one of the most IT-savvy countries. Everything is electronic there. E-government has been working for years now. Parking, IDs, everything is smartphone-based. And the state was the contractor. Local IT companies implemented that. They created a lot of jobs. They attracted a lot of investments in IT companies who later used those solutions, learned on those, and now Estonian coders work all around the world. Another important thing I should mention, for the first time in the history, France introduced anti-dumping fees for electronic appliances from the US. That's a bad flag. Fees have never been in the virtual sphere. As Macron introduced 4-3% fees for these American-based solutions, that was a scandal. So free virtual world is the world where trade wars will start. the state has to interfere. There must not be any barriers in the electronic world. When somebody starts limiting internet, that's wrong. And I support what the colleague says. It's important to develop education. Education is key. And if we are late for this train, we will be forever lost. We have to do it regularly. There has to be some targeted program that will correct the most outrageous mistakes. So the state and smartphone should be the trend, right? Yeah. By markets, so the state has to invest, the policymakers have to invest. And it's not that easy to back these programs with money. That's why they stay a lot declarative without implementation. Yeah, I like what the colleague said. As a part of the discussion, I would like to say that since I am here from the oldest of industries, among you all, there's a railway. If we talk about education and state-backed programs, I don't believe in state-backed programs, education-wise. Because specifically if you talk about Ukraine, we cannot even compete in how the state fosters and funds education, even with Germany. Germany, just recently they adopted a funding program for a railway 10 years ahead, 156 billion euro. Ukraine has €0 in such investment, zero over time. Although railway is very important for our economy, much more important than for Germany. Education. What I see in the recent years, it makes me think, although it's not a trendy idea, in a couple of years, in 10 years, in 5 years, education will look completely different. You don't have to force feed knowledge to anyone. It's about wanting to get that knowledge. In order to be an IT professional, you have to go to Polytechnica, get a diploma after 5 years, and then go to code or design. And global in the market, it's a completely different situation. Nobody wants your university degree. Nobody wants to see your scientific degree, your diploma, I think. They all see your portfolio and the quality of your work. So traditional education is really selling hot air, largely. What's more important? Ukraine is a good supplier of people, of brains on the global market, and the young generation. Maybe traditional education that Ukraine has is not that bad. But the point is that we have to create an infrastructure, not only railways, not only transport, but wider infrastructure, to make businesses, to create favorable conditions for businesses. It's a traditional point which we tend to lose sometime. We say that we need a strategy and the vision. Other than work in judiciary and less corruption, we have access to infrastructure, transport, energy, digital infrastructure, simple business administration mechanisms, accessibility and availability of business services, and a guaranteed quality of life. In that case, there will be more and more companies, clusters of IT companies, more and more production facilities of international companies will sprout. So sooner or later, that will stop the brain drain, that will restore your GDP. If the state, if the policymakers decide to invest, they should invest where others won't, like aviation, railway. It's not something new, it's something you have to accept. So if I stand correctly, for the policymakers, it's important to set up the priorities, because the budget is limited, you don't have enough for everything, so you have to come up with good priorities, so that where you spend in the anchor points and the most important pressure points. Okay, clear. Now, let's talk about how you imagine the role of Ukraine as a state, as a nation, in developing the Industry 4.0. Do we have any realistic chances to catch up with the train? Because we've tried many times and failed. Starting from the Soviet times, we never managed to catch up. Are there any some unique points that we have to focus? Because you work in the industry where you create intellectual product. Where is the Ukrainian strong point? I'm not going to be original, like Jack Ma said, and I liked a lot of what he said. He said that Ukraine has a unique opportunity. I work in IT. When you try to figure out why we take orders from India, not from Ukraine, because the mindset is different. People in Ukraine are more creative. The Indians, they do it everything according to terms of reference. We add something, our own element, to make it better. Then our experts are valued highly. So you need to capitalize on human potential, and that's where we're quite on the par with Western suppliers, because all of our companies work with external market. We build software here, but we sell it outside. Added reality, robotics, we're creating unique products. And we did an analysis of our suppliers, Industry 4.0 in Ukraine. We realized that in Ukraine there's more than 70 companies that produce competitive solutions for the whole world. And it's great. We have a great potential to create these technologies. And we're strong in that. But the other side is, what about consumers of these services? Who consumes the Industry 4.0 services? Transport? Not so much. Big data, that's there, of course. When I looked at the Amsterdam airport, I created an ecosystem, railways, sellers of services, flights. They created the whole system, how the passengers can walk, how they can connect to this and that, ticket sale. You have a huge amount of information about consumers of products. Nobody else is having that. So we can create that wow effect. But somehow we're doing that in front of the like Gatwick Airport asked us, you're creating that, we need that. And nobody needs that in Ukraine. So that's where potential is not used. Just sign the deal and work with them. And that was not my point. My point was where we're winning. There's potential, but there's no consumer. If we don't find consumers here, our brains will be sold over to other countries. And we will only produce commodity. We will lose that war for suppliers. So there's still a gap. The production cost of our products is expanding. The Americans bring back production from China. We're not doing that somehow. So yeah, the processes are very. One more example. We were in Hanover Messe, and Merkel was talking at that conference. She told us why we need 5G internet. She told us, right? And why she canceled the CeBIT exhibition. Somebody from our government can explain why do we need it. Businesses don't need that. 5G is necessary for cloud, for Internet of Things, and we as a state will sponsor that because all of our companies need that. Denis? So, can you add something from your experience about the industrial development of Ukraine? What would you advise to focus on? In Ukraine, there are a lot of buyers for IT solutions. They're not ready for that. They internally have not felt the necessity, the need, and unavoidability of it all. If you don't do that, now you will lag behind. Like, I come from classic metallurgy. Who could have thought that metallurgy will implement IT solutions everywhere? But we're doing that, and we're making money on that. To cut the downtimes, it's not virtual numbers, the real economy, specific money. And other metallurgy companies, the machine building companies, all of them are potential buyers. If now this whole system will start implementing IT solutions, it's going to be a boom of IT in Ukraine. How we should make them do that? If you have $1 million and you want the equipment, they will buy new equipment. For them, it's more important because it's all transparent for them. I'm going to do this and that. I'm going to make that and that money. They'll listen with the cash flow. Whereas the IT solutions, what is IT solutions? Well, some nice icons, buttons, but what's the economic effect for me in that? That's what I don't understand. You should break that paradigm. You should make people understand that it's real. They produce real effect, just like equipment. So it's going to be a big wave of orders for this technology. So the shortcoming of the IT solutions is that they don't come together with monetization scheme. Yeah, potential buyers don't understand where specifically they can win from IT solutions. So we still cannot position all that properly. Maybe not enough successful examples. We don't explain enough. In metallurgy, it's earning different treatment. So it's a natural invest decision. MPV, ROI, the same. So if we break that mold, we will have a lot of buyers. Okay, to summarize this discussion, we were discussing quite a relevant, if not painful, topic. Ukraine as a country, if it wants to survive, it has to capitalize on the creativity of our people. We were discussing creativity of children, how to capitalize on that. We talked about some companies who already use Industry 4.0, who set the example in Ukraine, which direction to go, and most importantly, we talked what's the role of the state in this task. And do we have any questions from the audience? Denis, thank you for the last remarks. My name is Alexander Lushak. I'm director at PAO. You were right, the buyers don't understand, but you understand. How? What do we do to make other contractors, other buyers understand that? Good question, but that was evolution. We implemented different solutions. First solution we implemented without understanding what's going to be the effect. It was to test it out. So those projects then made it possible to do other projects. We gained information to expand our horizons. So The fourth wave project produced real effect. That was the problem. The first IT solutions don't give you a quick win. You have to wait till the system is mature. Only then you get a desired effect. And we have to bring popular cases, we have to talk about numbers, specific examples. Then that's where the contractors understand that. It will take a couple of years. So only giving great examples, conferences like this, where we really discuss real effect, economic effect. Thanks a lot. My name is Yuri Chish. I work with Denis, Morozov in INTERPIPE and railway. So my question to my former colleagues. Home specific, Denis and Eugene. I'm working cargo automotive industry right now. My question is to how to make us being leaders in organizations continuing being teachers, as Jack Ma says. How do we do our employees leaving the routine work and start innovating? What's your personal recipe? So, good question. We have some experience like that, and it's a very complex one. In our case, it's more interesting. Other than the number of people, there's also traditionalist Soviet approach to organization of work, hierarchy, internal structure. Things that were not intended to do with the creativity. What we're trying to do, we're trying to build development or excellence centers. Not innovation, because it's too big of a word, and it's been overused, I think. But excellence centers, where we create conditions for the people who generate a lot of added value to get additional remuneration, to focus on the most effective lines of business and achieving a different level of work. So at the moment it's still in the pilot mode, but we're steering this process and it already generates effect. Personally, I believe that in big organizations it's the best approach to force all people to innovate. It's difficult and it's utopia. This has to be a focused think tank of proactive, passionate people who can generate additional value and multiply it in the organization in general. So let's take innovation and IT solutions. Implementing IT solutions is not innovation, it's systemic work. It's like project work. Project team, premium fund, working on the project, new knowledge, so that brings success. When it's not one person innovates, it's a team of innovators. And they implement a project, and it's not only about material motivation, it's a non-material motivation as well. So a person should know that it will be published, they'll give interviews, they will tell you what they implemented, why they implemented that. And people then feel that they have to do with this. That impacts positively their motivation. And in the end of the year, we award the best of the best, and we do it publicly, everybody knows that. Now about innovation. It's a different topic, it's more individual. There's Innovation Fund, where you can get bonuses for creating additional economic effect. Sometimes you get ideas emerging on the level where they cannot be implemented, but the management doesn't hear that, and it's a problem. So the information just doesn't reach the place where it's needed, and it's a problem we're trying to find our way out of, but we still haven't. So often this information about innovation stays on the bottom. We have one more question. Okay, so we covered all the bases. Thanks a lot for your participation. Thanks for active conversation. So, just one remark. How to make the buyers understand this technology. I have a great example. See, there's a robot that collects the word transformation. I also had this question. We're producing great solutions, and we need to show the experience of these solutions being implemented in Ukraine, not to some IT people. Because most conferences about that is the IT conference. They talk to each other. We decided to have a forum on the 20th. In 2 weeks there will be a forum. It's going to be Transformation Forum. It's the first forum in Eastern Europe on Industry 4.0. And I'm going to talk about that for company managers, for company leadership. What's the result that the company gets from Industry 4.0 implementation? We have a lot of interesting speakers there. Yannick will be from France, from aviation, by the way. He worked in Bombardier and Airbus and been talking about how it's done in France. But we also have experts from Ukraine, from all over the world, and we hope that will help better understanding in Ukraine what IT solutions give to businesses. So next to the panel, there should be a monetization panel. Yeah, it's possible. Okay, thanks a lot for everybody. Thanks for attending. Thank you for the questions. Have the good rest of the day and interesting panels.